Welcome. It's been a rough period for many people since last year. Protests that led to death, the pandemic and its resultant effect on the economy and livelihood of many, wars and other issues. A lot is said about how the news is affecting people who receive it, how the constant barrage of often negative information is problematic. It can have a narcotizing effect because when you keep seeing these things, at some point, your senses become dull. It's no more as jolting as it once was. It's almost like empathy dies just a little bit. For other people, the news takes away hope, especially in places where we keep talking about similar, increasingly serious issues year on year. But what about the people who have the responsibility of putting the news together? Bear in mind that these people see firsthand how good or bad the situation is and how it could be. So today on NC Debrief, I'm being joined by my colleagues. I'll be discussing how journalists are coping with the news cycle. With me in the studio is Olisa Chukwumah, who anchors our breakfast belts and covers, among other things, sports. And I will be joined, thank you very much first for joining me on NC Debrief.
Yeah, first time on Debrief, good to be here.
Yeah, this is an in-house effect. And of course, also joining us is Bernard Akede. He is a correspondent, always in the front line. Good to see you virtually, Bernard.
Good to be with you guys. It's always good to see you, Felicity. You bring life to the screen. And Olisa, nice to be on the show with you as well.
Yes,
he's a guest today.
Yeah.
All right. Bernard, you recently covered Nigeria's Democracy Day protests on Saturday, and you actually trended on social media with many people applauding your bravery, even with tear gas onslaught and the shootings. Tell us about the part of that experience that we didn't see. How did you feel, especially when the shots were being fired?
I would like to say that maybe I should have been wearing my Captain America T-shirt because I didn't realize that I had become some sort of a superhero. But I'll be honest with you, like every other person, I am human. I think the good thing for me is experience. This wasn't the first time that I had been, covering crisis issues. Prior to working for News Central, I have actually been in similar situations. So I had experience and I knew what was coming. I think the only sad part is, like every other thing that hurts, there is no preparation for it. You know it's coming, you see it coming, you're like, oh my gosh, here we go again. So the moment I saw the first canister of tear gas, I knew that my eyes were going to hurt. I knew that my nose was going to run. I would have a headache all through the day. And then, most importantly, when I heard the bullets go out, I was scared, like every other person, I must confess. But look, it's the nature of our job. The best we can do is, like I said that day, Thomas, keep rolling. The best we can do is to keep the cameras rolling so that we can get out, and this is to buttress your introduction, Felicity, authentic reportage. Now, with the proliferation of news and social media, everybody is a potential reporter. Everybody has a camera, or everybody who has a camera or a smartphone and is logged onto the internet will put up their phones and say, you can see now, it's happening right now in our area market.
Well, you are a lifer, you're a journal lifer. That's exactly the word I would like to use. Everybody, whether we want to be, cannot be professional journalists like you are. So I'll stay with you before I come to Olisa in a bit. After all of that, after the adrenaline rush and everything, you got home, and then you had a moment of calm from it all. We celebrated you in the office, but when you got home, when everywhere was quiet, what were the thoughts in your mind?
Okay, I think that's the most important part for a journalist who has covered crisis. It was mixed feelings and emotions for me, and that lasted, I think, a couple of days, to be honest. Maybe not many people know this, but I realized that not just me, it probably happens to other journalists as well who find themselves in such compromising or such difficult and challenging situations. I had moments of laughter when I remember what happened, especially when I play it again. I had moments of still fear that will still come to my mind, thinking it could have gone wrong. Just as it escalated from 0 to 100, from just talking to dodging bullets, anything could have gone wrong. We've seen cases where people have been hit by stray bullets. That could have happened. Eyesight's getting worse based on tear gas. I had a couple of people call to ask. So there were spells when I would laugh. Sometimes I'll be lost in thought. Sometimes I'll just sigh. Sometimes I'll think, what if? Other times I'll feel like a hero. It's been mixed feelings, at least for the next 3 days after the incident. But after then, you know what? Look, it's on to the next one.
On to the next one, indeed.
The job calls and we answer.
All right, let's come to you, Olisa. I mean, you went out to the Lekki toll gate. This is not something you're hearing from the outside, even though you are in the studio most of the time. How do you come of that? What was that experience like for you?
Well, it takes me back to that night, October 2020, that was last year. We had been covering News Central. We had been covering even myself and Bernard had been there days. I think it was about almost 11 days. I was there for straight days covering the NSAT protests. And on the night when it all happened, that was the 11th night, by the time the shootings happened and I had to rush down there to see what was going on, the thoughts that, people were being shot at, literally at the cover of darkness. It was really shocking. And I was there, I remember being there at least up until almost midnight, after the place was cleared and we still had, it was dark, there was fires, the toll gate was burning, people were really angry, and I remember just covering the event and wondering that, what just happened here? And the effect of that, I think I was about numb for the next 3 days after that night.
So you share a similar experience with Bernard when it comes to the after effect.
Yes.
And that's basically why we're having this conversation, guys. Aside these experiences, we constantly have to be in the know about what is going on, not only in Nigeria, but across Africa, because that's the coverage that we have. How emotionally draining is the news cycle for you, Bernard? Let me ask you.
Especially in the past 1 year, it has really been, now physically draining, yes, but I like the fact that you asked the emotional parts because we've been covering from one bad news to the other. And News Central is Pan-African, so we're not just looking at Nigeria or just the West African sub-region. All over the continent, from the north to the Sahel, to the south, to the west, and the eastern part of Africa, the Horn of Africa, it's been from one issue to the other. Let's not forget that we're just coming off of a pandemic, which has sparked a second wave and possibly a third wave in some parts of the continent. So emotionally, you feel connected to people of Africa from a distance, and you feel, oh, what's happening in Djibouti, what's happening in Congo, and all of that. But then coming back home as well, now you are physically connected to what's going on. So emotionally, to say it's emotionally draining is an understatement. Okay. It pulls out a lot from you as a person because you are the first-hand recipient and distributor of the information. More often than not just you sharing information on the news. On your social media handle, there are people who would reach you personally to ask, I've seen something on social media, I know that I can get authentic information from you.
Yes.
So you would have to over and over and over again inform and share bad news.
Yeah, quite. I mean, that's our really daily life. Yeah. But I'll come back to you with this question, but I want to lay it to Olisa first. In spite of these challenges, what keeps you going? I'm talking about the emotional toll now and how it affects your mental health, which is basically what we're talking about today. What keeps you going? Do you feel that your work is making an impact?
Yes, obviously, because at the very basis of what we do is journalism. A passion for journalism keeps me going, that's for sure. But just like Bernard, the emotional toll is always there. After the night of NSAS, everyone knew, for those of who know me at News Central, I was nowhere going to be anywhere near the protest, planned protest of Nigeria's June 12th. And by the time I woke up and realized Bernard was at the forefront, I felt for him. I was like, no, not again, not again, not again. So it takes its toll, but passion for what we do is what takes us there, and to always being accurate, authentic, and to tell the story the way it is, in spite of, how we feel at the moment, capturing the sense of what that moment is. I think that's the only way we try to just navigate this, really tolling job called journalism.
I'll put the same question to you, Bernard. We have a lot of ground to cover. So if you could just respond in, say, 30 seconds.
Yeah, very quickly. I couldn't agree more with Olisa. Passion is the first thing that drives us. And then the hunger to share authentic news. at the beginning of the show, I did say that everybody has become a potential reporter, sharing different kinds of information, but we need to share authentic news. And in very few seconds, I'll say, today, just before I got into the studio, I just covered the explosion at the Opic Plaza. The first thing I got there to see on site was 3 corpses in a body bag. And before getting there, already there was information that the entire building was razed and it was destroyed. So I had to share information that it's not the entire building. Parts of it was affected, cars were affected, a few people had died, so many were injured. But this is authentic news. So yes, passion is the first thing, and then the drive to share authentic information is the next thing that pushes me.
There has to be a balance somewhere, guys. Olisa, first, how do you take care of your mental health?
Well, sleep, lots of sleep. I think that makes me manage lots of sleep. Reading and trying to break away from journalism. So when I'm at home, I'm not doing anything basically has to do with reporting, who, what, when, where, why, how, sports, who did what. Just break away, sleep.
And you exercise. Yeah. I've seen you at it as well.
Yeah. But you just have to break away. You really have to switch off. I'm a big advocate of, switch off, because if you don't, we are the ones who are going to be at risk. So switching off, breaking away, then coming back, that's the way I manage.
I guess it's fair to ask you the same question for the benefit of those that are watching and are always also on the ground. How do you manage your mental health?
Well, I envy Olisa when he says lots of sleep. I don't think I've had lots of sleep in the past 14, 15 days. So I'm really looking forward to that. Because, well, for people like us who are more or less boots on the ground, if there's breaking news, there's information, we either find a way to get there or find a way to get that information. So lots of sleep is a luxury that I've missed out on. But there's one thing that works for me, though, that many people may not know, and it's playing video games. Yes, I said it on air. I play lots of video games. It helps me relax. And then some games on my phone, when I switch off from social media, it's like therapy for me. I just pick up and play, and then I relax. It's just something that gets me busy and takes my mind off a lot of trouble. But sadly, because of the way I am, the nature of the job, I can't switch off for too long, because I need to constantly
You have to be in the know.
Yes, I need to constantly know what's going on, so that if I'm reached by people, not necessarily in the office or in the studio, people from anywhere, they ask me, oh, we trust your sense of judgment and we trust information from you. What is the true story that's going on? I can't be aloof. I can't be in limbo and say, I don't know. The least I would say is, let me get back to you on this. So again, I would have to go back and search for authentic information. So for me, it's a bit more challenging.
I'll still stay with you on this one. Are you ever tempted, because you see a lot of these things, you're emotionally involved and all of that. Are you ever tempted to pick an emotionally motivated perspective, maybe one that makes things seem either better or worse than it is, to get people to act or calm them down?
It's a beauty that you asked me this question, and I have a very recent example. Now, during the protest on Saturday, NSAS protest, of course, because of the way the country is, sadly, people are angry, like Olisa did say, especially at the government and the police. But to be honest, I tried to explain to some of my loved ones that as much as you saw what you saw on social media and even what I reported, the police did play a very positive role to a certain extent, trying to separate protesters from reporters, trying to make sure that the situation doesn't escalate like it's happened before. We did see some positive sides from the police. So yes, at some point I was tempted to emotionally go against the Nigerian police because of past experiences and because of what they've done in the past. But I had to stay professional and say at some point, look, the police tried to do their job. Even though I don't totally agree with some of the things that they did, they tried to do their job professionally. So yeah, there are times when one gets emotionally swayed, but then professionalism has to keep you, and then hunger and quest for justice and what is right in terms of reportage is what should hold one as a reporter. But again, yes, emotionally, it's very easy to get swayed on the job.
Professionalism, like you said, is key. The conversation is not over yet, gentlemen. I'll be back with you in a bit after this break. Thank you for staying with us. If you've been watching, we're talking about the people that are in the news. I mean, if you're not in the news, you can switch off, but the people that bring the news, I'm talking about journalists now, how do they deal with the constant, onslaught of news, all kinds of news. And I have with me, talking live from News Central studio, Bernard Akede, who is a correspondent with us, and of course, my colleague as well, Olisa Chukwumah. Guys, we went on that break so we can have just a little bit of a breather. I just want to ask you this. There's another question I would ask if we have time, but this one is very important. A study in the International Journal of Psychiatry did a systematic review of mental illness among journalists. Now, the conclusion was that the prevalence of post-traumatic stress disorder among journalists is higher than among the general population. My question would be, let me take it to you, Olisa. What can media organizations do to help those who package the news?
Well, interestingly, the discourse around mental health is beginning to gain traction in many parts of Africa, and should be rightly so. For people who suffered mental health, whether as a journalist or not, you realize that the amount of relentless news you take in and you regurgitate, because you have to edit, you have to review, you have to write, and you have to be accurate. So open discussion about mental health or the risk as it affects journalists, whether broadcasters, print or multimedia journalists, is quite important. Even at News Central here, we take that quite seriously, because just like I said, we're still human at the end of the day. Whether you're dodging bullets with a camera or perhaps watching at home, you really have to protect yourself, and mental health is key.
What's your 2 cents on that, Bernard?
Well, I think I have more than 2 cents, but I'll keep it short. Olisa did say it, truly, and I agree with him. Issues concerning mental health cannot be overemphasized. We are usually first-hand eyes that get to see these things happen, and then we have to struggle with reporting it. And then people forget that we also are human. So we have to be, composed and comport ourselves. We are reporting this day in, day out, all around the clock. It's very important that, first of all, you take care of yourself as a journalist, take care of your mental health, and then the organization, whichever organization you belong to, should also get to see to the mental health of their staff. Speaking to Donald, our technical head, and he did mention that in Kenya, when they go out for protests like that and they see issues that unfold, sometimes for like 3 days, they have mental health experts talk to and properly assess the journalists to help them get back in shape. But the sad thing, like I mentioned earlier, is after 3 days, on to the next one. You're out to the field again. So concerning mental health and journalists, it's like two lovers in bed. We have to continue over and over and over again. It should never stop.
So long as the stories are there, it's imperative that employers and individuals continue to work towards ensuring that their mental health is in the right space for them to continue to deliver their jobs diligently. Before I let you guys go, let's talk about, being a journalist. We've been talking about that, but from the perspective of, with all this emotional stress, going through all, you saw something today, you were telling us earlier that, had some emotional impact on you. Are you a lifer? Like a journalist for life, or do you plan on changing careers at some point as a result of, the challenges that go with the territory?
I would like to say that I'm here. I believe that I'm here today based on how I grew up. I watched TV a whole lot, so I'm not surprised that I ended up in front of the camera. Whether I end up continuing being a journalist, a professional journalist or not, I think that I would definitely have something to do with the media my entire life. I've even played several funny and sad incidences in my head where I may be in a hospital bed and I'll still say, keep rolling, keep rolling. but definitely for me, it's journalism for life. The money is very important, but it's not all about the money for me. But definitely, I could use more money, but I'm a journalist for life.
All right, before we come to Olisa, let's go on this quick break. Thanks for staying with us. Olisa, quickly, are you a lifer as a journalist, or you're going to wrap up sometime and just move on to something else?
That has to be the case. Don't forget, I come from a very strong news and current affairs and sports background, so that's a lot to pack in, in one lifetime. So I do see a time where I just wrap it all up, and just chill, do something else. Perhaps it might be academia, but still media related, but
not anytime soon, definitely.
I may go into UFC fighting if I don't get journalism in the end.
What? UFC fighting?
UFC fighting.
Very funny. Thank you guys for having this very important conversation with me.
As always.
As we wrap things up, here are some solutions for journalists to consider, as suggested by journalism coach A.I. Tompkins. Don't wait for your boss to suggest a time off. Ask for it when you want it. Like everyone else, get yourself a support system outside of work. Try not to medicate with alcohol or drugs. Watch out and be concerned if the disturbing information and images no more affect you. Remind yourself of the good things that you are doing for your community and your world. Try to focus on the meaning you're making. Keep things around you that remind you of what normal is. It can be pictures of loved ones, nice movies, stuff like that. And importantly, you need to rest. Be deliberate about resting and seeking good news. You can find more material on this on the International Center for Journalists website. Until next time, stay safe and be well.